Biology Video Lectures with Akirili Oladimej Philip. It's my pleasure to have you on the lecture. So today we move on to cell differentiation and cell specialization. And I want you to just try to imagine these two keywords, differentiation, specialization. What does it mean? What does it mean to differentiate? What does it mean to specialize, so to say? Those are the keywords. So when you understand those keywords, you can then say cell differentiating or differentiation, then cell specialization. So let me explain that. Now, when you hear the word differentiation, means to separate oneself from others, so to say. If I say I want to differentiate myself from you, it means I have to find a way to look different. I have to find a way to separate myself from others. If you can take closely from this caption here, you can see all those guys here look alike in the way. But can you notice that a time came whereby this became different in a way? Now, when we now say specialization, what does it mean? It means you become specific in doing something. That's just an overview. Let's go right into the lecture itself. Now, it's essential to know that when cells differentiate, become specialized. You can see from that slide that these cells, let me go back there, were initially spherical, round, all of them in that dish. But this one became different, looking like a net. Some became different, looking like small coin, so to say. This one became different, looking like a star. That differentiation made them to become specific in doing a function, which is what? Specialization. Is that clear in a way? Now, differentiation is the process by which a cell changes to become specialized for its job. Don't get it confused. These are cells like that, like that, like that. Then something happened. This one decided to be different. To be different. As I decided to be different, it becomes specialized. Don't worry, I'm going to explain now. Now, imagine you have everybody in the class. You have 20 students in the class. Then all of you are all students. Let's assume all of you are the same age, the same structure and everything. Then all of a sudden, your class teacher says, okay, I'm going to give the lab coats of a doctor to 5 of you. I'm going to give a shovel, 5 shovels to 5 of you, another group. I'm going to give spoon and knives to another 5. So it means we have 3 groups. First group wearing apron or wearing the lab coats. Second group wearing and carrying shovel. Third group carrying knives and spoons, so to say. So it means that these groups have become differentiated from other students. And because they have become differentiated, they can perform a particular function. So the process of them becoming different is what? Differentiation. Because they are wearing lab coat now, and let's assume they can behave like a doctor. That means they become what? Specialized in becoming a doctor. The ones that are carrying shovel, they become specialized in what? In digging. That's specialization. The ones that are having the knife and the spoon, they become specialized in cooking. That's self-specialization. But remember what? Differentiation led to what? Specialization. So as cells changes, I'm on the 3rd paragraph now. I'm here now. As the cell changes, they develop different subcellular structures and turn into different type of cells. Now, can you see the apron? That's what makes them different. So when we say subcellular structures, there are things that a cell will have to become what it became, so to say. For those ones to start digging, they have to have shovel. So those shovel they acquired is what gave them the ability to begin to dig. So they acquire something, they develop something. All right. Now, moving on, these allow them to carry out specific functions. Most differentiation occurs as an organism develops, all right? In most animals' cell, the ability to differentiate is then lost at an early stage after they become specialized. What does that mean? For animals, everything we have here has been formed from the womb of the mother. That's what it means. It means that initially, this is what happened to humans. We have let me draw that. We have the egg there, fertilized by a structure called what? Sperm cell. So when the sperm cell fertilizes that, they form a structure called what? Zygote, which is just a cell. Then that zygote divided to form 2 cells, 4 cells, 8 cells, 16, 32, 64, like that, kept divided. Then as it moves on, some cells will decide to become the cells of the muscles of the hand and the leg and all of that. Some cells will decide to become what? The eyes. Some cells will become the brain. That's what? Differentiation and specialization. So as that they are becoming different, that's differentiation. As they become the brain cells, that means it will only perform this function of what? Of thinking. That's specialization. When we become the eye cells, it means when it forms the eyes, it means it performs the function of sight, specialization. So what I'm actually saying is this: everything you are seeing now on your body has been formed from the womb. That's why it says what? In most animal cells, the ability to differentiate is then lost. We've lost it. We can't have it now. We've already had it in our mother's womb, lost at an early stage after they become specialized. So we have all specialization. That's why when you give birth to a baby, it has all structures. It might be small, but everything is there already. But however, in plants, they don't lose this ability. They have cells that can differentiate, they become specialized, even as this plant is growing. But humans, we have it as a baby and it ends there. Only gets bigger. All right. Now, here we are. You can see it here that these are stem cells. Stem cells are cells that has not yet differentiated. And if a cell has not differentiated, it cannot become specialized. So the cells that differentiate in mature animals are mainly used for repairing and what? Replacing cells such as skin and blood. So you might want to say, okay, do you mean we don't have cells at all? Well, that can differentiate in humans, in adults like we are. The little differentiation we may want to say, not really differentiation so to say, are only used to replace our dead cells, like the skin cells, as we scratch our body and all of that. When we itch our body, when we have itches, like the dead cells fall off, the new ones replaces them. Nothing so serious. When our blood cells dies, new ones replace them. But we are not forming new structures like we had in the embryonic stage. Now, what I want to see is here, can you see that these stem cells, which are undifferentiated cells, another word for stem cells are what? Undifferentiated cells are what? It then differentiate to form what? Muscle cells, to form blood cells, then the nerve cell, which are found in the brain. Then these are another type of muscle cell, which is what? Cardiac cells, which is found in the heart. The heart is made up of muscle, but the muscle there is called cardiac muscles. Then you can have the liver cells, the intestinal cells, which are found in the wall of our gut, basically. So can you see how different cells came out from the stem cells, or let's say the undifferentiated cells, basically? So moving on, specialized cells. These are cells who have chosen a specific function in an organism's body. These are your keywords. They have chosen a specific function. They can't do any other thing. Muscle cell that is meant to contract and relax cannot start secreting fluid. No. If it does, something has gone wrong. And cells that are meant to secrete fluid will not start contracting. They have chosen a specific function for the rest of that organism's body. So now examples. Let's go ahead to talk about examples of what? Specialized cells. Number one is what? Nerve cell. These are specialized for what? For rapid signal transformation, or let me say transmission. The function of the nerve cell is to carry electrical signal from one part of the body to another. What are nerves? When I did like this, I felt it immediately because there are nerves that took the information like that to my brain. That's why I knew I felt it. Even if I had closed my eyes, when you touch me, I will still know because they are nerve cells. So they carry things. They are specialized cells. They can't do any other thing at what? Carry electrical signal from one part of the body to the next, then to the brain. These cells are long to cover more distances, and they have branch connection at their ends to other cells and form a network throughout the body. when we get to the nervous system, you understand this the more. All right. I wish I had a diagram to show that anyways. So sorry. Now, the next cell is what? Sperm cell. These are specialized for what? For reproduction. You can also say the egg cell in the female is also a specialized cell for reproduction. I only chose sperm cell as an example. It's not the only one. The function of sperm cell is basically to get the male DNA, which is found in this head of this organ, of this structure. This is a specialized cell, like I said. The function is to do what? For reproduction. It will carry the DNA in the head here to meet with that of the female. What does it have? It has a long tail. I want to pay attention to that tail. It has a streamlined head to help it swim to the what? To the air. Can you see that it has things, structure that will allow you to do its function? That's why it is what? Specialized. It has structure that will allow you to move. It can swim. It has a pointy head that helps it to navigate like that. Now, there are what? Lot of mitochondria in the cell to provide energy needed. Now, it also carries enzyme in its head, in this structure here called acrosome, to help it digest through the membrane of the egg cell. Let me explain some few things that you don't forget here now. The thing is this. For it to perform its function, it needs three structures. I'm going to circle that. The tail for swimming, the mitochondria in the middle piece for what? For energy. What does the energy? It needs to swim some distance. So as it's swimming, it needs energy to do that. What provides it? The mitochondria. Then when it gets to the egg won't just allow the sperm to enter. It has to break the membrane. How does it do that? By this structure called acrosome. Acrosome, this one here, that's acrosome. It will digest the head, digest the membrane of the egg. Then once it does that, this nucleus will then move into the cell, into the egg cell, to unite to become what? To come what? Zygote, basically. Now, another type of cell is what? Specialized cell is what? The muscle cells. They are specialized for what? For contraction. They can't do any other thing than to what? Contract. But we have three types of muscle cell. We have the one in the heart, we call it the cardiac muscle. The one in on our bones, we call it what? Skeletal muscle. And the one we have in our guts is what? Smooth muscle also. So this is skeletal muscle here, and this is smooth muscle. I use S for the skeletal muscle and the S for the what? Smooth muscle. These are found in the what? Gut, in the intestine. Now, let's look at this. The function of the muscle is for what? For quick contraction. These cells are long. Now, pay attention. That quick contraction only applies to what? To these two. Just these two. The smooth muscle doesn't contract quickly. It is slowly but strong. So that word that says quick contraction is for those two. Cardiac muscle in the heart and the smooth muscle, so the skeletal muscle in the bones. And they contain lots of mitochondria to do what? Generate energy needed for contraction, because to contract demands energy. That's why if you are tired, for you to move, it's a bit harder. Or when somebody is sick, when there is not enough energy, it means for contraction of muscles, there needs to be energy. All right? So moving on. Now, those are the specialized cells in animals. So let's look at specialized cells in plants. What are the first one I'm going to look at is what? The root hair cells. When you have your plant like that, there are some, when you uproot the plant, on the root of your plant, you have some hair-like structures, which are what? Hair cells, which absorbs water. These are the hair cells here. These are the hair cells. Now you can see that for absorbing water and minerals, root hair cells are cells on the surface of the plant root, which grows into long hairs that stick out into the soil. This gives the plant a big surface area for what? Absorbing water and mineral ions from the soil. That's the function of what? Hair cells. For what? Absorption of what? Water and mineral salt. Then another type of cell is what? The phloem and the what? The xylems. Actually, for what? Transporting substances. Pay attention, this juncture is very simple. Phloem and xylem cells are from xylem, phloem. Let me take that again. Phloem and xylem cells from xylem. Phloem and xylem cells from xylem Now let me take that again. The phloem and the xylem cells from the phloem and xylem tube, which does what transport substances as food and water around the plant. So let me explain some few things. Now, let me zoom this. Okay, let me use the second slide. Beautiful. This structure, this one that goes up, the blue one that goes up, is the what? The xylem. What does it do? It transports, pay attention, water and mineral salt from the soil upward only. It only moves upward only. Only soil, water and mineral salt from the soil upward only. That's what it does. On the other hand, now pay attention now. This structure you are seeing, that xylem, is not a cell, but a tube like that. But this tube is formed by xylem cells like that. So we can say that the xylem is a tissue, but don't forget that tissues are formed by what? Are formed by cells. So xylem cells form xylem tissue, and this tissue is like a tube that transports water upward in plant cell. It transports water upward, not only water and mineral salt in plant cell. So it's a tube. So don't be confused. What you are seeing is actually xylem vessel, but this vessel is formed by xylem cells in the body, basically in the body of the plant. So what do? They transport water and mineral salt from the soil upward in the plant. Now, on the other hand, you will see that there's this blue guy here, which is called phloem. What does it do? It transports manufactured food. When you hear the word nutrients, it means the food that the plant has formed during photosynthesis, which is going to be glucose and stored as starch. So the phloem will transport it upwards, downward, and every part of the plant. So now you need to know that phloem tube carries food in all directions. What's the food? The glucose. When is it formed? During photosynthesis. What forms this phloem tube? Phloem cell. Hope that is noted. Now, okay, let's go back to the initial slide. So you can see it here that xylem cells are hollow cells in the center of the phloem and all of that. Basically, what you have here are just the things I've explained. So you can pause the video here, just study this the more. Can you see this here? So this is xylem here. Can you see the movement upward? Then for the phloem, it is downward in all directions. Just pay attention that it is all direction. That's the major difference. Phloem tube is formed by phloem cells. Xylem tube is formed by xylem cells. What are they? They are specialized cells in plants which will only perform a specific function in a plant, basically. So quickly, let's have some revision from our last class, which is going to be in this way. Now, the first slide here says, okay, I think we have this from the last class. If you probably saw that's the other video, which was the structures of the cell, basically. It's here. Now, okay, let's answer that again. I think if you attended the last class, you'll be able to answer this easily. Plant cells are specialized cells, specialized to use photosynthesis. What cellular structure or cellular component do they use for this function? Remember the formula here is pause the video, think of the answer, say it or write it down, then you play it to hear the answer. So I guess you mentioned what? Chloroplast. So they use chloroplast for photosynthesis. Now the next one says that structure there, you can see what type of cell is this? I guess you mentioned what? Plant cell. Why will you do that? The Q there is what? Cell wall. So there's cell wall there to serve as a cue to help us decide what type of cell it is. So let's move on. Now this one is more lengthier than the other ones. So let's see this. Okay. What is a specialized cell? Beautiful. Pause the video, think. All right. A specialized cell is a cell who has structures to perform specific functions, basically. Or you can say for short, specialized cells are cells that perform specific functions. That's simple. Give 2 examples of specialized cells in animals. I think we mentioned about, is that 3 or 4 thereabouts? Now, please, let me see. Okay, let me answer the question first. Number 1, we can say sperm cell. We can say egg cell for reproduction. We can say muscle cell. Now, don't mention cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, skeletal muscle. If you notice, I keep saying muscle. So those, one of my students once mentioned each of these as examples of specialized cells. All of these 3 are types of muscle. So it's just muscle for short. So it's going to be muscle. So that's a category in its own. All right. Now give 2 examples of specialized cells in plants. Okay. I think we treated 3. I guess we mentioned root hair cells. Root hair cells for what? Absorption of water and nutrients from the soil. Then we have the xylem cell, which forms the xylem tube, which helps to transport mineral salts and water from the root upward. Now, don't get confused. Root hair cells absorbs the water. Xylem tube transports that water that was absorbed, all right? And the next one is what? Phlegm, which helps to transport food around. And that process of transportation is called translocation, basically. Movement of substances around the plant's body is called translocation. Hope that is noted. Now, explain how a sperm cell is specialized to its function. Can you remember I showed you 3 parts? The tail for what? For swimming. The mitochondria in the middle piece for what? For energy. Why does it need energy? To swim, because to swim from where the sperm is deposited to where it's meant to get to, it needs energy to do that. So that's number 2, mitochondria in the middle piece. And the next one is what? The acrosome, or let's say the acidic membrane on the head of the sperm cell for what? To dissolve the membrane of the egg. So 3 things: the tail, the mitochondria, and the acrosome, or some book will call it acrosomal cap, basically, that will be used to dissolve the membrane of the egg cells. Describe the specialist function of a xylem cell. I think I mentioned that already. What does it do? It helps to transport water and mineral salt from the soil upward. But even if you don't say upward, but it helps to transport water and mineral salt from the soil to other part of the plant, so to say. Then describe the specialist function of a phlegm cell. Transportation of what? Of food. What food? Glucose around the body of the plant or around the whole body. Now, here it says, phlegm contains fewer organelles than other cells. Discuss why, relating this to their specialized function. Basically, I didn't mention that, but this is the point. Phlegm transports sugar. So, as a matter of fact, let me draw that here. This is phlegm. It has something here called companion cell here. This part here, it doesn't need too much of organelles because it needs space to transport food. So most of the, as a matter of fact, this phlegm tube is dead. So it uses the nucleus of this companion cell to survive. Of course, you're going to see that when we get to plant tissue, plant anatomy, basically. But the point is this: the reason why it doesn't have much organelle is because it needs space for transportation of food substances, basically. All right. Okay, I guess that's the last slide here. Okay, this is the last one here. Cell can be specialized for a particular function. Okay, this is the diagram of a sperm cell. So describe how the long tail and the mitochondria help the sperm cell to do its job. I think I mentioned that earlier on, which will be the long tail is for what? For swimming. The mitochondria is for what? For production of energy. All right, guys, that will be all for now. I hope that has been helpful in a way. Feel free to drop your comments and send your question on the detail on the screen. Do have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.